Respect it. If you think he's over you because he stopped calling, stopped texting, or stopped showing emotion, you may be making the biggest mistake of your life. Because sometimes a man goes silent, not because he stopped loving you, but because losing you broke something inside him he doesn't even know how to explain. There's a dangerous misunderstanding people have about men. They think men heal fast. They think when a man smiles again, laughs with his friends again, posts pictures again, or acts cold again, it means he has moved on. But let me tell you something that life teaches every grown man sooner or later. A man can hide pain better than anybody in this world, but hidden pain does not disappear. It waits, it grows, and one day it speaks. See, women often cry immediately after heartbreak. They release emotions. They talk to friends. They face the pain early. But many men, they run from it. They bury it under work, distractions, ego, pride, or temporary attention from other people. They convince themselves they're fine. They tell everybody I'm good. But deep inside, they are carrying a silence so heavy it follows them everywhere. And the truth is, the longer a man ages, through ADs that pain, the harder it hits him later. I remember hearing a story about a man who lost a woman who truly loved him. Not a perfect woman, not a rich woman, not the most beautiful woman in the world, but a woman who stood beside him when he had nothing. A woman who believed in him when he doubted himself. A woman who listened to him when nobody else cared what he had to say. She saw the broken parts of him and loved him anyway. But like many men, he became too comfortable. He thought she would never leave. He thought saying I love you once was enough for forever. He thought showing up halfway was acceptable because she would always understand. And little by little, he stopped noticing the tears behind her smile. He stopped appreciating the little sacrifices she made every day. He stopped realizing that a woman can love deeply and still quietly prepare herself to walk away. And one day, she did. Now listen carefully, because this is where most people misunderstand men completely. The day she left, he acted calm. He shrugged his shoulders, told his boys it is what it is, started posting more online, started going out more, maybe even started talking to somebody else. You see, too quickly, everybody around him thought he was fine. But what nobody saw was what happened when the room got quiet. Nobody saw him staring at old messages at 2 a.m. Nobody saw him replaying old conversations in his mind while driving alone. Nobody saw him hearing her laughter in places she no longer existed. Because men are trained to hide weakness. From childhood, many boys are taught one sentence that destroys emotional honesty forever: man up. So instead of grieving openly, many men grieve silently. And silent grief is dangerous because it sneaks into your sleep. It follows you into your work. It sits beside you at dinner. It turns success into emptiness. It makes crowded rooms feel lonely. You see, people think missing someone is about tears, number. Sometimes missing someone looks like emotional numbness. Sometimes it looks like anger. Sometimes it looks like distraction. Sometimes it looks like pretending not to care because caring hurts too much. That's why when people say if he wanted you back, he would say something, they don't understand how fear works inside a man's heart. Some men don't reach out because they stop loving you. Some men don't reach out because they know they hurt you. And guilt can silence a man longer than pride ever could. A man who truly realizes your value after losing you often enters a battle inside himself. One part of him wants to call you immediately. Another part whispers, maybe it's too late. Maybe she hates me now. Maybe I already ruined everything. And while he stays silent, his mind keeps replaying memories he cannot escape. That restaurant you used to visit together suddenly becomes painful. That song on the radio suddenly feels personal. That hoodie you left behind suddenly becomes impossible to throw away. Because people don't understand something about love. Real love leaves fingerprints on the soul. You can replace routines. You can replace conversations. You can even replace company for a while. But you cannot easily replace the feeling of being genuinely understood by somebody who saw the real you. And that's what destroys many men after a breakup. Not loneliness, replacement. Because temporary people can distract a broken man, but they cannot heal him. A man may sit beside someone new and still think about the woman who truly knew him. he may laugh at dinner with, while secretly remembering how you used to laugh at his worst jokes. He may hear another voice and still miss the peace your voice gave him during hard days. See, what men miss later is rarely beauty alone. They miss safety, they miss loyalty, they miss emotional peace. They miss having one person in this world who believed in them even when they were failing. And when that disappears, many men realize too late that they lost more than a relationship. They lost home. There was another man I once heard about who spent years chasing success while ignoring the woman who loved him. Every time she asked for time, he said he was busy. Every time she asked for emotional connection, he said she was asking for too much. He thought providing money someday would fix everything. But women don't only need provision, they need presence. And one night, after years of feeling emotionally alone beside the man she loved, she packed her things quietly and left. At first, he felt relief. No arguments, no emotional conversations, no pressure. Freedom, that's what he called it. But freedom feels different after enough silence. Weeks later, he came home after work and realized nobody asked how his day was. Nobody reminded him to eat. Nobody cared whether he made it home safely. Nobody looked at him with love in their eyes anymore. And suddenly the house felt colder than ever before. That's when reality finally entered his heart. Because sometimes a man only understands a woman's value after experiencing her absence long enough to feel the emptiness she once filled. And by then, regret becomes heavy. You know what hurts a man deeply? It's not always losing the woman. Sometimes it's realizing he became the reason a good woman stopped believing in love. That thought destroys many men privately. Because deep down, most men know when they lost somebody rare. A woman who stayed during hard times. A woman who forgave repeatedly. A woman who tried to communicate instead of giving up immediately. A woman who loved not just his strengths, but also his flaws. Those women are unforgettable. And let me tell you something powerful. A man may ignore your value while you are available because human beings often take consistent love for granted. But absence has a strange way of creating clarity. Distance removes distraction. Silence exposes truth. And altogether, why many men sit alone with one painful realization. She loved me better than I deserved. That realization can haunt a man for years, especially when life becomes difficult later and he realizes not everybody will love him with patience, softness, understanding, and loyalty. See, there are women who enter a man's life for a season, and then there are women who change a man forever. The dangerous thing is, many men don't recognize the difference until it's too late. And if you think he's over you simply because he became quiet, because he stopped reacting, because he acts distant, understand this carefully. Silence does not always mean peace. Sometimes silence means emotional war. Sometimes silence means a man is fighting memories he cannot erase. Sometimes silence means he finally understands your worth but lacks the courage to admit it. And sometimes silence is the loudest form of regret. The hardest truth about heartbreak is this: people rarely appreciate what they have while it is comfortably theirs. Human nature has always been strange that way. We pray for things we don't have, then slowly neglect the blessings we already hold in our hands. And many men don't realize this until the woman they love becomes a memory instead of a presence. See, when a woman truly loves a man, she gives pieces of herself in ways most people never notice. She remembers the little things. She studies his moods. She learns the silence in his voice. She becomes a safe place for his stress, his fears, his frustrations, and his dreams. She celebrates him when the world ignores him. She stands beside him when success has not arrived yet. But love like that is dangerous to take for granted. Because once a woman gets tired of carrying a relationship alone, something inside her changes. And men often miss the warning signs completely. A woman rarely leaves emotionally overnight. First she waits, then she hopes, then she tries harder, then she communicates, then she cries silently. Then she starts accepting painful truths she never wanted to believe. And eventually the day comes when her heart becomes exhausted from begging for what should have been given freely. Respect, effort, presence, love. By the time she finally walks away, many men think the breakup happened suddenly. The breakup happens slowly In all the moments he stopped noticing her pain. And when reality finally hits him, it hits hard. Because now he begins replaying every moment he ignored, every call he cut short, every emotional conversation he avoided, every time she asked for reassurance and he called her too emotional. Every moment she simply wanted his attention while he gave his energy to everything else. You see, memory becomes cruel after loss. It starts connecting dots a man refused to see before. And the deeper the love was, the heavier those memories become. There are men walking around every day pretending they moved on while secretly carrying emotional ghosts everywhere they go. They smile in public and break in private. They entertain temporary people while missing permanent love. They stay busy because stillness forces them to think. That's why some men hate being alone after heartbreak, because silence reminds them of who they lost. And let me tell you something most people will never admit openly. A man's ego can delay his healing for years. A woman cries. A man distracts himself. A woman talks about her pain. A man buries it. A woman seeks emotional release. A man seeks emotional escape. But buried emotions do not die. Why wait patiently in the dark until life slows down enough for truth to catch up? And eventually, it always catches up. Maybe months later. Maybe years later. Maybe after another failed relationship. Maybe after sitting beside someone new who lacks the depth you once gave him. That's when comparison begins haunting him. Not comparison of beauty, comparison of connection. Because beauty attracts attention, but emotional connection changes lives. A man never forgets the woman who made him feel understood without forcing him to pretend. That kind of connection becomes rare as life goes on, especially in a world where many relationships are built on convenience instead of genuine emotional support. And this is why some men return emotionally long after relationships end. Not because they suddenly became lonely, but because time exposed what your presence truly meant to their life. I once heard an older man say something powerful. He says, son, you don't miss the woman during the loud part of life. You miss her during the quiet part. Then that sentence carries so much truth. Because pain hides during distraction, but eventually life becomes quiet enough to hear your owl. At heart, a man may spend months partying, chasing attention, meeting new people, pretending he's free and happy. But one random night he comes home exhausted, sits alone in silence, and suddenly remembers how peaceful life felt when you were there. That's when heartbreak becomes real. Not during noise, during silence. And the painful thing is, men often realize emotional value through absence. When you were there every day checking on him, supporting him, forgiving him, encouraging him, it became normal to him. Familiarity made your love look ordinary. But once your absence replaces your presence, ordinary suddenly becomes priceless. Now he notices things he ignored before. Nobody checks whether he ate. Nobody notices when his energy feels off. Nobody supports his dreams with genuine belief. Nobody listens with the same patience. Nobody understands him the way you did. And suddenly he realizes something terrifying. People can replace attention easily, but they cannot easily replace emotional depth. That's why some men become emotionally stuck after losing a woman they genuinely love. Outwardly, they continue life. Inwardly, part of them remains trapped in memories they never fully process. And the reason this happens is simple. Real love changes a man, even if he acts unaffected, even if he never admits it publicly, even if pride keeps him silent. A woman who truly loved him leaves emotional fingerprints on his character, his habits, his mindset, even the way he sees life. Sometimes a man only learns how valuable loyalty is after betrayal from somebody else. Sometimes he only learns emotional peace after chaos enters his future relationships. Sometimes he only understands your patience after meeting people who give up on him quickly. Life has a painful way of teaching lessons late, and growth often begins with regret. That's why many men become better men after losing the woman they should have appreciated from the beginning. Not because pain magically improves people, but because loss forces reflection. Reflection forces truth, and truth changes people who are willing to face it. See, there's a moment many men experience after heartbreak that nobody talks about enough. It's the moment when distractions stop working. The parties feel empty. conversations feel shallow. The attention feels meaningless. The temporary excitement fades, and all that remains is emotional reality. That's when he starts remembering your heart instead of your face, your kindness instead of your appearance, your loyalty instead of your body, your peace instead of your presence. Because time strips away surface attraction and reveals what truly mattered emotionally. And if your love was real, he feels that absence deeply. But here is something important every person listening needs to understand. Missing someone does not automatically mean they deserve another chance. Sometimes a man realizes your worth after losing you, but realization alone is not transformation. Pain can create regret, but only maturity creates change. And there's a difference. Some men miss you because life became uncomfortable without your love. Others genuinely grow, reflect, heal, and become emotionally accountable. You must learn the difference, because love should never require you to destroy yourself waiting for someone to value you properly. That's important. Yes, he may still think about you. Yes, he may secretly miss you every day. Yes, he may regret losing you more than words could explain. But your life cannot pause, even while somebody else figures out lessons they should have learned earlier. And this is where many women become trapped emotionally. They spend years trying to decode a man's silence instead of protecting their own peace. Listen carefully. A man can miss you deeply and still not be emotionally ready for you. A man can love you and still lack emotional maturity. A man can regret losing you and still repeat the same behaviors if he never truly changes. That's why wisdom matters more than emotion, because feelings alone cannot build healthy love. Character does, consistency does, growth does, effort does. And if losing you truly changed him, eventually his actions will reveal it more clearly than words ever could. Not temporary emotion, not late night messages, not nostalgia, real change. Because mature love is not built on promises made during loneliness. It is built on transformation proven over time. There comes a point in every man's life when he is forced to face himself honestly. Not the version he shows the world. Not the confident image he posts online. Not the tough exterior he hides behind. I'm talking about the real man underneath the ego, underneath the P. Right underneath the distractions. And heartbreak has a way of dragging that truth into the light, especially when the woman he lost truly loved him. Because losing real love does something temporary relationships never can. It exposes emotional emptiness. It reveals wounds a man spent years hiding from himself. And for many men, that realization arrives long after the relationship ends. That's why sometimes the man who looked perfectly fine after the breakup becomes the one struggling the most months later. At first, he thought time would erase you. He thought staying busy would help him move on. He thought new attention would fill the void. But eventually he discovered something painful. You cannot replace emotional connection with distraction. You can delay pain. You can numb pain. Run from pain, but eventually pain waits for you at the end of every distraction. And when that moment finally arrives, many men begin remembering things they ignored when love was still alive. The way you looked at him when he doubted himself. The way you celebrated small victories nobody else cared about. The way you tried to understand his silence instead of attacking him for. Or it. The way your presence made hard days feel lighter. And suddenly he realizes something he was too immature to understand before. Peace is rare. In today's world, genuine emotional peace is one of the rarest gifts a person can receive. A woman who brings peace into a man's life is not easily forgotten, because life itself is already hard. The world pressures men constantly. Financial stress, family expectations, fear of failure, emotional pressure, silent insecurities. And when a woman becomes a safe place in the middle of all that chaos, her absence becomes unforgettable. That's why some men don't truly break down when the relationship ends. They break down later when life gets heavy and the person who once carried emotional weight with them is no longer there. I remember hearing about a man who spent years building his career. He worked long hours, chased money, and believed success would solve everything. The woman beside him supported him through every difficult season. She waited patiently while he focused on work. She loved him through stress, frustration, and emotional distance. But over time, she started feeling invisible. Every conversation became rushed. Every emotional need became bad timing. Every attempt to reconnect emotionally was postponed for someday. And one evening, she finally said words he never expected to hear. I don't feel loved anymore. Now listen carefully. Most men panic only when consequences arrive, not when warnings appear. Instead of listening deeply, he defended himself. I'm doing all this for us. I'm tired. You're overthinking. You don't understand pressure, but love cannot survive forever on explanations without emotional connection. Eventually, she stopped fighting for attention. And when a woman becomes emotionally tired, her silence becomes dangerous. Because quiet disappointment eventually turns into emotional detachment. One day she left, and for the first few weeks, he convinced himself it was temporary. He believed she would come back. After all, she always stayed before. But this time was different. Because when a good woman reaches the point of emotional exhaustion, leaving is no longer impulsive. It becomes survival. Months passed. He became more successful financially than ever before. Bigger house, better car, more status, more money. And yet every night came home to emptiness, no laughter, no emotional warmth, no person waiting to hear about his day. And that's when success suddenly felt cold. Because achievement means very little when you have nobody meaningful to share it with. That's when he finally understood something millions of men learned too late. A woman who genuinely loves you during your struggle is worth more than people who only appear after your success. But by then, regret had already become part of his daily life. You see, people think heartbreak is always loud, crying, begging, drama, number. Sometimes heartbreak is incredibly quiet. Sometimes it looks like staring at the ceiling at night, unable to sleep. Sometimes it looks like rereading old messages. Sometimes it looks like hearing someone mention her name and pretending it doesn't affect you. Sometimes it looks like achieving everything you once wanted and still feeling empty inside. That's the kind of heartbreak many men experience after losing a woman who truly mattered. And the saddest part, many never express it openly. Society often teaches men to suppress emotional vulnerability. So instead of saying, I'm hurting, many men become emotional. Narrowly distant, angry, numb, or overly distracted. But hidden pain always leaks somewhere. Into work, into sleep, into future relationships, into loneliness. Because unresolved heartbreak doesn't disappear just because someone hides it well. And if you think he's over you because he stopped speaking, understand this carefully. A man's silence can hide oceans of emotion, especially if he truly loved you, especially if he knows he failed you, especially if deep down he understands you deserve better than what he gave. That realization can eat at a man slowly for years, not because men are weak, but because regret is heavy when attached to genuine love. There's something else people don't talk about enough. Many men don't fully understand the emotional impact of a woman until they experience life without her energy. Energy matters. The right woman changes the emotional atmosphere of a man's life. She inspires him differently, motivates him differently, grounds him emotionally, gives him peace during chaos, reminds him who he is during moments of self-doubt. And once that energy disappears, life feels different, colder, heavier, more empty. That's why some men return. Who are in years later saying things like, I never found anybody like you. What they often mean is this: I never found that emotional safety again, because attraction is common. Real emotional connection is rare. And when a man loses something rare, memory turns it into something unforgettable. But listen to me carefully now, because this part matters deeply. You should never build your entire future around whether someone regrets losing you. Your worth does not increase because somebody finally recognizes it late. Your value existed even when they failed to appreciate it. That's important to understand. Too many people wait emotionally for validation from someone who once overlooked them. They spend years hoping regret will bring closure. But healing begins the moment you stop needing another person's realization to confirm your value. Yes, he may miss you. Yes, he may think about you constantly. Yes, he may secretly carry guilt, sadness, and regret every single day. But your healing cannot depend on his awakening, because sometimes life teaches people lessons too late. And sometimes your role in somebody's life was to teach them what love looked like, even if they fad. Wow, to protect it properly. That doesn't mean your love was wasted. Love is never wasted when it was genuine. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most still carry pieces of us forever. And sometimes the greatest pain a man experiences is not losing the relationship itself. It's realizing he lost the one person who truly saw the good in him before he even saw it in himself. There is a moment every man eventually reaches after loss,